The next talk would be myself. So I will be given a talk on a faith-based approach. I'm going to share my screen. I'm currently teaching online science and math classes at California Baptist University and interdisciplinary studies as well. And we have been privileged to be able to share our faith and integrate our faith into our science classes in a distance setting, which can be challenging at times because this is a setting that lacks that face-to-face interaction. So today I want to talk to you about how I have been very mindful of keeping Christ at the heart of every engaging learning strategy that I have practiced in the online setting, specifically in teaching science, which can be challenging on its own in an online distant setting. And this has become a lot more concerning to me, and I have focused a lot more on it during the challenging pandemic season, as I have noticed that the emotional well-being of the student is a prerequisite. It's a very important key factor to make sure is ensured for effective learning in an online setting. And with us as faith-based education institution and instructors who are encouraged to model Christ through their teaching in their classes, I think that it's really made possible to do that and ensure that students are emotionally well. I have also noticed that a student-focused learning environment is very helpful to overcome many of the challenges that come through distance education. Motivational communication, grace in times of crisis, consistent check-in with the students, and then weekly prayers. And I will talk about each one of these strategies in this presentation. So first, starting with student-focused learning, and how can this be done online when you don't really know your students face-to-face, when you don't really know, there's no really option, like if you were in a classroom and your student would come up to you, they would ask you a question right away, or they would tell you what's challenging to them, what's concerned. How can this be done in an online setting, especially when you have a large number of students, when you have a great variety of students? So I've noticed one of the very effective strategies is through weekly feedback tasks. And I know that takes a lot of time from the instructor side, but it is definitely worth the time, because weekly feedbacks should be made more student focused and to assess the specific student challenges, to assess the specific, I would say, concerns of that student and what they're going through and their specific progress for more effective learning. I have employed weekly and regular check-in emails to our students that are not just sent to a vast variety of students, but for specific students, for individual students, to check in on their progress. I teach a large variety of non-traditional students who are working professionals, who are parents, who were stuck at home with their children during the entire pandemic and who had a lot of roles to do all at once. So checking in on them and relating to them and making them feel like I can relate to you, I am in the same boat and I know what you're going through, really does give them a bit of motivation to keep going and a push to work harder and to move forward. And in my communication, I made it a little bit more personal, because I was relating to them as not just that computer screen, but a person behind the screen, really relating to them and letting them know that I exist. I'm a person. I'm going through very similar challenges myself as a working parent to twin girls who are toddlers. Also, I feel you. I know what you're going through. So that allows to bridge the gap of the face-to-face interaction that we lack in a distant setting. It really allows us to express empathy in communicating with our students. And this is really touching on the topics that were previously mentioned by our speakers. And I also did take the time to chat off topic with the students. Some of them have been through some challenging times of grief and sorrow and sickness, and really taking the time to chat with them does really, I believe, model Christ's unconditional love to us, and that we can provide to our students in the online environment. Motivational communication. And again, how can this be done online? Constant encouraging messages that are either embedded into your weekly feedback for the assignments, or they can be embedded in an email that was sent to you that you will reply to your student. Just give them that little encouraging push, that encouraging message. Share with them some personal challenges and stories that allows them to connect with you, because when they see that connection, they see other people are going through very similar challenges. And I think that does encourage them to keep moving forward, and it gives them the motivation to work harder and to persevere. And it does give them that resilience piece. You can get through this challenging time. And also rewarding students for their progress, even if they are behind. I've noticed that feeling with them, and sometimes we really don't know how to distinguish a real excuse from a fake excuse, but sometimes we really have to go a little bit further in our faith and just go with the story and encourage them, reward them if they show progress, and sometimes it really works. And this has been really shown to alleviate some of the stress associated with taking science online and learning math after a very long time of being out of school. That motivational communication is a helpful piece, and especially during the pandemic. Grace in times of crisis, and I've noticed that this has been a lot more on my plate and other professors during the pandemic season, as students have lacked the energy, lacked the motivation, and especially having been sick, having lost close members, having been unemployed, financially struggling. So all of these factors we have to keep in mind have been thrown on our students all at once. And on top of that, they yet have 4 or 5 courses, sometimes a little bit less or a little bit more, they have to keep up with, and a family to teach and to care for. So grace can really go a long way as it is offered to our students. Of course, keep in mind that when we communicate that we are offering grace for late work, whether it is an unaccomplished task that needs to be done by the end of the class, if we give a couple extra days, that they are mindful of the goal-setting plan. We are not trying to set them up for failure, but we are trying to monitor their progress and keep them on task. So grace within condition, through offering extensions, offering assistance and guidance, and guiding students also to tutoring opportunities. Weekly prayers is another piece that I really love, and I feel like it's an opportunity for me to pray with my students. So as I write my weekly prayer and send it out in an email to my students, I feel like I am given the opportunity to imagine that they are around me and we are all praying together. And I send them on a regular basis, on a weekly basis. And depending on, for instance, during the pandemic season, it was depending on what was happening every week, I would tailor my prayer to engage those students and give them some relief and bring them close to God, and closer to that, to His unconditional love, so that they can feel it and they can truly believe in it. As some of you might have said also, that it has brought people a little bit away from God. So trying to keep them closer and hanging in there, sending these weekly prayers has really helped. And this could be done through emails, as I said, through your Blackboard or whatever you are using as your learning management system. Also, take some time to talk with your student over the phone and pray with them, and encourage them to send you in prayer requests. And I usually ask them to send in prayer requests, whether it's in an email response to them, or sometimes through my weekly agenda videos, weekly announcements. I've seen that really does help. And these are very helpful strategies that we can all adopt, whether it is an in-class setting or an online distance setting, that could help us overcome the challenges that our students are facing, help them overcome these challenges, and help us online instructors be more present in the life of our students, especially that we are doing all of these with Christ at the heart of it, right? We are doing everything because we are called to do it. And I think that all of these strategies are really helping the most challenging students who we don't get to see in a distance setting, who we don't get to really point and distinguish from other students so that we can offer help. So I believe that these are helpful strategies that we can all adopt, and I encourage you to try some of them in your classes and see how they work. And I have some references here that I would like to share with you on that have encouraged me to practice faith at a very, whether it's in my lectures or whether in the communication strategies that I adopt with my students. And that they have been very helpful. So thank you very much for listening to my talk. I am way ahead of time, and I want to open it up for questions for myself and for other speakers as well. David, go ahead.
Just as a comment, meeting I was in earlier this summer reported studies finding that simply saying the goal is for the students to learn and make progress instead of something like look around and only half of you will make it. Merely saying something like that is enough to give better results, even if there's not anything obvious that the professor does differently. Simply conveying that. So how much more if we really try to do more to specifically encourage them?
I agree. Thank you for that comment. It does go a long way. It does. And I've noticed that, I've noticed from responses from my non-traditional students who are older and who have been out of school for a long time. But really, when you applaud them for their dedication and for coming back to school and working hard, they really do appreciate it. And they do see that, I have that drive, that motivator behind the screen there, who believes in me. And that goes a long way in showing that, yes, you can do it. I believe in you. And it gives them that push. Thank you for your comment.
As a scientist, I just feel inclined to give that a name. There's a long history in social psychology and even behavioral economics about what Bob Rosenthal originally termed the Pygmalion effect, which is basically that people conform to your unspoken expectations about them in subtle but really important ways.
Thank you, Erin. That's very helpful. And I thank you again for joining this session, for your participation, and for your engaging questions. And I pray that you guys all enjoy the rest of the meeting and explore the talks that you're interested in.